We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday, and Thursdays are typically Old Soul Day, and Old Soul is here. And if you look in the background, that's a green screen, but you're not in Las Vegas where you normally are. You're in Arizona currently.
Yeah, the wild child started her senior year on Monday, so I'm helping her adjust a little bit.
So
But she
her
got her other
adopted
her other
mom is seeing her off to school.
yeah, it was pretty cool. She got her ROTC, so we got that part like down pack. And she's cool. Like she's sociable, so she's like meeting people and all that cool stuff. So it's good. And I was telling you, she got her driver's license, but I
Wow.
didn't tell you the story behind that. She does nothing normal. So her appointment was like in October or something like that. But they did put her on a standby list. And they said, okay, so if we get a cancellation, we'll send you a text message and you text yes to accept the that cancellation appointment, or you text no, and then they'll send it to somebody else, whatever. So she gets the text message, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we can go to school late on Wednesday. I'll take you in the morning, get your license, and then we can go to school. And so she got her license, and then we're like driving to school, and she has her Bluetooth hooked up. So like some girl called her, and she was like, "Did you get your license?" They was all excited. They were talking. I wasn't even paying attention to the conversation. And then she got off the phone. She was like, "Okay, I'm gonna tell you what happened." And I'm looking at her like I wasn't even listening. But I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" So I guess this girl used to be on a standby was on a standby list, and she got a text message. So what she did was she forwarded that message to the wild child. So when
Oh,
we went to the DMV and she was like, I don't have you on the list. And she was like, I got the message. And so she pulled the message up on her phone, but it was the message that her friend had forwarded her. And they were
oh,
like, oh,
wow.
we've never made that kind of mistake before. I'm so sorry, but since you're here, let's go. So she bumped herself to the head of the line, basically. And then
Wow.
I was just like, okay. So I was just back on my phone and she's just like, I'm not getting in trouble for that. I was like, this is like not a battle that I want to pick. I don't agree that you did it, but like I'm not gonna get upset about that. So
Yeah, at that point,
that's
it
how she
doesn't
got her
matter.
license.
You got her license. So when are you
She
going
bumped to the
back?
head of the line.
When are you going back to Las Vegas, back to home?
I was hoping to go back this weekend, but I was supposed to like try to do some other canvassing stuff, but that kind of is up in the air. If we're not, I might stay another week because I didn't come by myself. Grammy's boyfriend drove down with me, so if he wants to stay longer, I'll stay a little longer. And yeah,
Well, so you're doing some canvassing in Arizona?
no, in Vegas. I was supposed to go back home so I can do canvassing there, but they tried to remap some stuff because I was telling you about the Virginia
Yeah.
um, city in Nevada, and there's like some other little towns, but they want to make sure that we're safe before they send us to some of these little like outskirts. So if they don't have anything for us to do, I can stay a little bit longer, but if they do have something for us to do, then I'll go back.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
see.
You had to be excited about the news in Arizona, though, that the abortion question's going to be on the ballot. That's a big deal down in Arizona.
Yep. We have it on our ballot in Vegas or in Nevada as well. Even though we were a safe haven state, you never really know what can happen in the future or
No, heck
whatever
no.
that's going to be. So we just made sure that it's on the ballot that way regardless, we will be okay in this state. So I'm pretty sure we'll be good on that ballot. It's just trying to the last that we saw is she was like down 3 points in Nevada. So we still have some work to do.
Absolutely. A lot of people were wondering. You talked about going to the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz rally in Las Vegas, and I know you made it there because we texted. Why don't you tell
Mhm.
us what happened?
It was a blast. Oh my God. It was so fun. So they have like on like the stage, there's like two DJs down there and there's like a hype man down there. So it's like a concert. They are playing like I was thinking about Cindy when we were there. I was like, oh, she would be in here jamming. Everybody's like dancing, having a good time. There was a lot of Republicans for Harris. I was kind of shocked to see that. But so they had all of the people from the field office, like all of us volunteers. And the campaign was just like our field office people, those are like our VIP. So those are the people that we like want like up front. Like the donors and stuff was like behind us. So they made sure like when we were there, we got to meet Governor Walz. He was so cool. You're from Minnesota, so I don't know if you know this story, but we were like in the back and we were like teasing him because he was like, I'm so hot, but I'm not sweating. Like, I don't know what to do. So we were explaining to him the difference between like dry heat and humidity. Like, you just hot, there's nothing you can do about it, right? So we were talking to him about that. And then someone asked him about that one seat majority and like how he's getting all of this stuff done. So there's one story that he tells, and like the staff, the people around him, they're like, oh God, here he goes with this story again. So he said, I guess in his state, they passed edibles first before just like legalizing marijuana. It was like
Right.
edibles. And so he was saying the way that he did it was he just gave Republicans the bill and they just signed off on it. And so then they were like, well, that doesn't legalize edibles. And he was like, yes, it does. I gave you the bill and you signed it. And he was like, well, there's a lesson about reading things before you sign it. And he's like, so that's how the edibles got through. But it was a cute little story. He told us that he did that. And I was thinking to myself, like, imagine if we had somebody that like played those kind of games before like good stuff. You know what I mean? You know, Republicans play those kind of games to, you know, take away people's rights or, you know, hurt people. But he was like playing those little games to kind of like help people. So I guess there's a bunch of little little underhanded stuff that he used to do that people got used to. So yeah.
I remember that story, not specifically, but it was the way the bill was worded, and they didn't pay attention to it, and
Yeah.
everybody was saying, "Oh, that's great," and then other people started coming out and saying, "Yeah, but that means, and this means," and fucking Walls played those bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
did.
him and the campaign, they have all these little stories like that that they tell. So it was pretty, and he could tell a really good story. Like he's very like down to earth. Like you could just hang out with him. But that was pretty cool. And then they had to turn people away because I guess something was going on with the ventilation like up top, and they were going back and forth. And then they were just like, you know what, if there's like a slight chance that people could get sick, because it was like packed in there, like 15 like thousand people, maybe more. And they were trying to bring more in, but because of the ventilation at the top, the fire marshals was like, mate, this isn't really safe. And so they just said, you know what, if there's a slight chance that somebody could get hurt, we're not going to do it. We're just going to have to turn them away. Like they didn't want to, but they had to. And I was just sitting there, and like before I could get it out, it was a one of the union members. She was like, "Could you imagine Trump turning away thousands of people at his rally?" She was like, "There's no way. They would have all came in here, and whatever would have happened would have happened." Before I could say it, she said it. I think we were all thinking that. But
So,
yeah,
so you must have had a lot of room to move around, given that most of that crowd was AI.
that was the dumbest thing I ever heard.
It was the dumbest thing.
It was packed. We were like dancing, having a good time. It was like a little party up in there. It was really, really cool. I liked it.
Somebody yesterday called Donald Trump out on this, and they said, "You said that what's going on in Las Vegas was AI, but there's video all over the place." And then he backed off and he says, "Well, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I just know we get the biggest crowds ever," which isn't true. He had he had something called an economic address in North Carolina last night. And the thing about it is it's funny that he called it an economic address. The reason he called it an economic address is because he didn't want to call it a campaign rally, because then they would compare the attendance from Kamala's campaign rallies and his. So it was supposed to be an economic address, and he was, they're telling him, look, you can't keep jumping on Kamala, you can't keep calling her names, you got to stay on point, stay on the policy. So I suppose they figured if we call it an economic address, then Donald Trump will stay on the subject. And how do you think that went? It didn't
I
go
saw that
well.
and it didn't go good at all. He can't stay on subject. I did hear that he was bringing in some new people into the campaign. I guess I can't remember the name, but this person is supposed to be very experienced. It's not going to make a difference
He doesn't
because you are
listen.
hiring people to tell you how to run your campaign and to help you win. So you want to hire people, not listen to their expertise and their advice, do whatever it is that you want to do, and then get mad at them because they didn't help you win your campaign. What I can say though is MAGA has been calling, they haven't been calling him out really. They've been calling out his campaign. Like he needs to get new advisors. He needs to get all these people in here. They're ruining it for Trump. I did see Laura Loomer though. She was like going after Trump himself, which I'm like, you might not want to let crazy that too close to home, but I think maybe he thinks he can control her, but that's not going to happen. But I did have to say one more thing before I forget.
Sure.
With some of the people were doing what they would come to, like as we were flowing into the rally, and they would like take pictures and videos to show empty seats, and then they would post it before like all of the people came in there. But anyway, I just had to say that before I forgot.
Well, yeah,
That
yeah,
was
no,
stupid too. Because after they did that, they didn't leave. They stayed there and partied with us.
Did you talk to any of the Republicans voting for Kamala now? Get kind of a
Yeah,
sense of what they're about?
it was a lot of Republicans for Harris, and they had like the red shirts on with the white letters on there. Some of them had like the blue shirts on, but they were all like Republicans for Harris. Like, and you talk to them, and I think what the general census is MAGA is not Republican, and they're trying to separate themselves from MAGA. Now,
Right.
why they waited this long to do it?
Good point.
I don't know, but they're trying to do it now. And that seems the general consensus. And these people, they do know the facts. They know that, you know, what the deficit that he ran up when he was there. They knew what the job numbers were when he left. They know these things and they're like, that's not fiscal conservatism. Some of them, the more like, I guess, spiritual ones were saying about the blasphemy that he does. Other ones, like some of the veterans and stuff, would just say how he desecrates the flag. So they know who he is and they know he's not a Republican. And then a lot of the women are just like, yeah, we don't know why he wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade, but we're not rocking with that. So that was
Right.
going on too. They had like a lot of good reasons why they didn't support him, why they supported him. A lot of them voted for him in 2016, half of them 2020, and then the other half didn't vote for him in 2020. So I don't know what took them so long to see it, but they get it now. And trust me, they go hard for Harris. It's just as hard as we do.
Well, I think it's safe to say that a lot of Republicans are a little mentally slow. And some of these people that keep hanging on, they're going to have trouble uh, bathing the stink of Donald Trump off them when it's all said and done.
I
It's
think
fun.
some of their the leadership that we're seeing, the mayor in Mesa, and when you watch him speak, I could tell how difficult it was for him to do that. Because one
Yeah,
thing I've learned about Republicans is that's being a Republican is their identity. So it's kind of like, you know, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a niece, like that's part of who I am, right? But for them, it's like the Republicanism is like a part of who they are. Like they are
right.
like blood in, blood out with the Republican Party, I guess. So I do understand now why it's so hard for them to let go because that's part of their identity. They can't take that away from them, I guess. I don't know. But once you put it in them like, hey, Trump isn't a Republican, like, and then the guy in Mason, he's like, you owe Donald Trump nothing. Like you don't
Right.
owe him anything. You don't owe the party anything if they're turning on you. You don't have to vote alternative or do any of this other kind of stuff. So I
I heard
think that's where it comes from.
I heard
But it was
something
hard for him to
interesting.
do that.
I heard something interesting that the Zoom calls. We've had the white men, the black men, the black women, the white women, and all that stuff. I heard that there was a Zoom call that happened last night that was Evangelicals for Harris.
They have an
Now,
ad.
I didn't see that one fucking coming.
Me either. I knew that maybe they would do a Zoom after I saw their ad because they have an ad out now. It's
That's
kind of like
crazy.
an old-fashioned ad, but I guess that works for the people that that's there. But they do have an ad out for him, and they're like playing. The first part of the ad is some kind of pastor. I don't know that world like that, but from my understanding, he's somebody that they all look up to. And he was talking about asking God for forgiveness or whatever. And then it cuts to a clip of Trump, and they're asking him, has he ever needed to ask for forgiveness for anything? And he was just like, that's a hard question. And then I guess he said he doesn't ever have to ask for forgiveness and all that other kind of stuff. And that was the ad. And then at the end, it just said Evangelicals for Harris or something like that. And then
Yeah.
that was the ad. It was, I guess, if you're evangelical, that could be powerful. I thought it was a little 1960-ish, but I guess it works for them. I don't know.
But it's really kind of interesting because we're at that stage where it seems like to use an old term, the worm is turning, because there was a period of time when everybody was just backing him up no matter what. I'm a Republican, I support Donald Trump. Now we got Republicans turning away from him, the evangelicals. I never
Yeah,
thought that would happen. I thought they were all on board because they wanted one thing, and that was overturning Roe v. Wade. And for evangelicals to support Kamala Harris, who's all about pro-choice, that's a big step for them. They must see whatever Donald Trump is bringing is even more dangerous than the one thing they fear the most.
yeah. I think what it is we all know that Trump's Christian faith is like a prop. It's not real.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
It's not. However, he surrounded himself with some pretty well-known people, like Paula Wright. Paula White was his personal spiritual advisor. And so when you have people like that around him, and these are the people from the mega churches, and these are the name recognition, I think it was easy for some of them to buy into that. But now that those people have kind of like slid off, maybe it gives them permission to see it for what it is. And you do see more and more pastors now in their sermons speaking against what it is that he's doing.
Now,
Not enough of them, though.
Paula White is a certifiable nut. She's not well in the mind. She's not. If you just listen to her, she's fucking crazy. And you know who she's married to or was married to?
Who?
Neil Schon from the band Journey, which is kind of interesting. Tells you why Steve Perry got the fuck out of there. Anyway, um, so things are really changing for Donald Trump. We seem to be on this descent for Donald Trump, and this is essentially what happens to narcissists. They go strong, they peak, and then they drop off very quickly. And nothing Donald Trump is doing is working. He's just
Yeah.
everything he's trying. Now, I did hear just earlier that Tim Walz has agreed to do a debate with JD Vance on October 1st. That's going to
I
be
haven't
interesting.
heard that. Last I heard, JD was trying to debate Kamala.
Yeah, well, I think they've come to the realization that this is the ticket, and he's agreed to do it. Whether he will show up or not, I don't know. It's a lot of time between now and October 1st. A lot of bad shit can happen for Donald Trump, and I'm convinced that we'll have some of that bad shit. Can you imagine what it's going to be like with JD Vance and Tim Walz? Tim Walz is kind of a folksy guy, a down home guy, but he will destroy that stupid motherfucker because he's just constantly talking about crazy shit. I mean, he constantly is putting down women all the time. He just had a quote. He had a quote in a book where he thought it was a flex because his hillbilly grandmother one time pulled a 357 on a biker gang or something like that, and he was proud of that part of it. And he basically said post um,
Oh, that
post
thing about the postmenopausal women.
yeah, they're there
Yeah.
to raise kids. What the hell is that about?
I think that I have to be careful when I say this. I think that JD is playing a role,
Yeah, I
and
think so too.
he is doing what he thinks like a alpha male would do, and he's saying what he thinks an alpha male would say. It doesn't come natural to him because that's not who he is. So when he looks around at like these red pill guys or whatever, he tries to emulate that, and he doesn't do a very good job of it.
Well,
That's
and
not who he is. He's just pretending, and he's not a very good pretender.
apparently he is pretending because we had these pictures that came out that are alleged to be him in drag, which
Yeah.
can't go over too well with the Trumplefucks at this point. They don't like him in the first place. And now this, my goodness. Now, if he wants to dress in drag, that's cool. But to keep putting people down who do, that's a little hypocritical.
I think I wish that he would have had someone in his life like a Tim Walz or someone who could have like kind of embraced him and let him know it would be okay to be himself. And then when he tried to come out to his grandmother, she wouldn't accept it, so he just retreated back within himself. And that,
Right.
to me, that's it's pretty sad. I don't mind the pictures of him being in drag or anything like that, but the fact that he tries to take those rights away from others because he was denied that right, it doesn't make it okay. And then it's like it's 2024, like we would be mad at you.
I get the impression that from what you were talking about at this rally, and I talked to different people who are now on the Kamala thing, and uh, they seem almost giddy. It seems
hmm
like there's never been more confidence in what's going to happen in November than it is now. You feel that way?
I do. And I know a lot of people look at it as like, oh, she's new, she's fresh, and um, it's like this hope thing, which is partly true. However, I just like sitting there, I was like, I was writing a script for another creator, and what I was leaning into was is a reason to fight for something.
Yeah.
So when you look at what has been ever since Obama left, what has been is I'm gonna vote for this person because they're like the lesser of two evils. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna vote for her because she's going to help me go to college. I'm gonna vote for her because I'll be able to afford health insurance. Like, so you have a reason to fight for something. You're voting for a reason, and that reason is whatever it is within yourself that is gonna help. So it's not I'm voting for the lesser of two evils or any of that. So that hope comes into looking ahead and knowing that this ticket can help you get there. So I think, especially like in the civil rights and stuff, when people say, how did they keep going? Well, they were fighting for something. They had a
Right.
purpose. So that pushed them there. That gave them the hope, even if they got beat up in the process. And I think that's what we're seeing now is just people are fighting for something. Even with like my daughter's generation, it's like fighting for the climate, which I don't know why he would be on X talking to this generation and saying climate is a hoax, but whatever. It's just like they are fighting for their own future because they want to be able to inhabit the planet, and they have to fight for that. And I think that's motivating them too. And I think they're just looking at her as kind of like that North Star to help them get there.
You
That's how I'm
know,
looking.
um, one of the things, and maybe you saw this firsthand when you were at the rally. I think one of the big things that Kamala Harris has is the ground game, if you will, or the campaign staff. The
Mm-hmm.
campaign staff she has is very professional. They have offices everywhere. They were set up for Joe Biden. They brought
Yeah.
in this Pluff guy who ran Biden's campaign. I mean, they're like a well-oiled machine, and I compare them to Donald Trump's side as Donald Trump's campaign staff being a roadside MAGA merch stand. They don't seem to grasp what they've got going on. Their resources are slim because clearly they don't have a lot of money. And and secondly is what we said before. No matter how smart they are, Donald Trump isn't going to listen to them. I mean, if Donald Trump doesn't listen to his lawyers when he's being charged with 34 felonies, he's not
Yeah.
going to listen to a campaign manager.
Yeah, I think, and part of her team is she brought in some of the people that was on Obama's camp that's
Right.
there as well. And then a lot of the people around her, not only are they professional, but these are like a lot of younger people, and they are all like from different like backgrounds. I don't think that there is like any nationality that's not covered on her staff. Like you have black, white. One of her staffs, I can't remember her name, but she's like an Indian woman. Like, well, I mean, like I can't
I-
think of like the indigenous. There you go. That's like
Indigenous,
who
yeah,
she, yeah, and she wears that on her sleeve, like she's proud of that's who she is, but
right.
she knows how to reach out to her community. So she does have such a diverse group around her, and I think that helps as well. And then also like they're so like down to earth, so they know how to throw like a party. So when you have like DJs and a hype man and you have the lights and stuff going on and everybody is having a good time, it's not like so stiff or you're just sitting there bored waiting for the event to start. And it's just kind of like I couldn't tell you if it started on time or not because we're having like such a good time. And then you can contrast that to Trump's rallies. And they're sitting there for like 2 hours waiting for him to show up.
And
And
then
he
they
doesn't even have
leave.
the decency to entertain them while you're being late. You know what I mean? And then you play the most dullest songs I've ever seen. It's
Well,
a big difference.
every song he plays, he gets a cease and desist letter. And he can only play songs once. Otherwise, they tell him, you can't do that anymore. There was a story. I don't know if you heard this story, but they had a nice little video of Tim Walz and Kamala talking. And the story was that initially when she called him to ask him to be the VP, she
Mm-hmm.
called his cell phone and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't answer because he didn't recognize the number. And she was giving him a hard time about that. He goes, "Yeah, I'm the most important phone call in my life, and I didn't take it." Fortunately, they did connect up. But I do that. You do that. Nobody answers
Yeah.
phone numbers you don't know.
I mean, compare that to JD when he said he told his son, "Can you shut the hell up for like I'm trying to talk to Donald Trump?" Like, I really do think that he thinks that's what alpha men do. And it's like I
Yeah.
wish I could just sit him down and say, no, most like alpha males that I know, they're like leaders. They're not aggressive, they're not abusive or anything like that. They just know how to command a room and lead. If you can
Right.
just command a room, people will follow. So he just has the the worst examples of what a leader should be.
I
That's
think
I think I don't understand why he's looking at the people that he's looking at. But
I think you're right about JD Vance. He's trying to play a role that is not innately him, trying to be
mhm,
the alpha male, to be one of the guys, and he's just not one of the guys. He reminds me of, and you probably won't understand this reference because you're too young, but the old people listening to the show will. He's kind of like a Barney Fife on Andy Griffith. This skinny little wimpy guy that tries to
yeah,
act tough.
hmm
Kind of like the Chihuahua that barks at the Doberman. It's just, it's ridiculous. And he doesn't play the role very well, and he's not sharp enough of a speaker to sell what he's trying to sell. And that's why I'm interested in this debate with Tim Walz, because Tim Walz comes off as an easygoing guy, but when you get him going, he is a smart guy. He's like Biden in a lot of ways. He's
yeah,
kind of down home, but when you mix it up, it's going to be a problem. And JD Vance, I mean, he's embarrassed every day as it is, but that's going to be a bad day for JD Vance.
yeah. I don't think JD has to look that. He doesn't have to go back to the Andy Griffith show. He doesn't have to do that.
Yeah,
We just watched Ron DeSantis go through this playbook, and it didn't go well for him. It's
true.
like if he could have just been himself and not been trying to be something that he's not. A lot of his shortcomings, I think a lot of guys could have related to that, but he didn't give them the opportunity to see that side of himself. And I don't know for JD why he just didn't pick up on that because he is an educated person, but maybe he's just not a people person or he's not good at reading the room. And maybe that's why he is repeating Ron DeSantis all over again, which is
Yeah.
sad. These guys don't feel like they can be themselves. That's got to be pretty lonely.
Well, it's hard to do when you're working with Donald Trump because Donald Trump expects certain things, and if you don't do it, you suffer his wrath, and that's what happens when you're dealing with somebody who's a bully like that. Everybody just does whatever they have to do to avoid the wrath, whether it be lie to them, and I think the people around him do lie to him because Donald Trump doesn't know a lot about what's going on. He was on stage yesterday and he was basically saying what he said in 2020. If we don't win this election, it is rigged. He's just trying to set the tone for when he does lose because he knows he's going to lose. But the thing about it is people always worry about that. He's going to say he won. So what? He's going to be in a lot weaker situation than he was after 2020. People are tired of the shit. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we are where we are and why he's fading and Kamala's raising is because people are tired of the shit all day, every day, talking about it, thinking about it, worrying about it. People just want to live their fucking lives and they're tired of Donald Trump dominating their lives.
Yeah, I remember when he was president, the doom scrolling, especially during COVID. It
Yeah,
was like 100 times worse than what it was before. Like before it was bad, but during COVID, it was just doom scrolling. I never knew what I was going to get when I opened up my phone. I never knew what he was going to say at a press conference, how it would affect other people. I never knew whose videos I would see of people who are just being led off of a cliff.
right.
It was just pretty bad, and I do think a lot of people forgot that, but I think now we're being reminded of it. Um, and then I think a lot of what's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. I know this is like my number one thing about Trump that just gets under my skin is he talks so bad about America. It
Yeah,
is just like we are a horrible country. We are a third world nation. We've gone to hell. We are a nation in decline, and we can't keep. And it's just like it's such a like I've never heard any person talk in America talk about America like that. Like complaining and having critiques is one thing, but it's just like he just hates it here so bad, and
right.
it's just like oh my God. But just to think of someone who was the former president of the United States, someone who is running for the highest office in the land again, and he is saying these types of things. And I'm like, I cannot be the only person that it just bothers me so bad the way he talks about this country. It's and I'm just wishing like somebody would call him out on that, but nobody is saying that to him. And I'm just like, I
Well,
wish a reporter would just say, why do you hate America so bad?
well,
And then
see,
just let him eat his words.
well,
I've
no,
heard
he'll
you say
answer
a
it. He'll
hundred
answer
times.
that though. You got to
Do you
understand how
think
the
he will
narcissist.
answer?
Yeah, you know how the narcissist looks at it. They always look at everything in extremes. It's either the best or the worst. And if Donald Trump isn't president, it's got to be the worst because the only way it can be fixed is if Donald Trump is president. It's a
Right.
really rudimentary strategy and a mentality, but that's how they think. If you're doing my job, you're doing it the worst possible way. I really need me to do the job in order to be great again. And that's, people think there's a strategy to what he does. There is none. It's all
Yeah.
very, very instinctual to him, and that his instincts are bad. But if he's going to talk about America, in his mind, he has to point out that you are having a bad time. This is a terrible place. The only way you can fix it is if you put me in. That's his strategy. Unfortunately, it's working against him. And Kamala and Tim Walz are very smart in the respect while he's talking these doomsday situations. They're bringing hope and joy and fun and excitement, and people are ready for that after 8 years of this bullshit. This is what narcissists do. They put you through hell in order to control you.
Yeah.
And then
But
when you
that,
finally see the light of day and you can get the fuck out, you're just breathing and jumping and happy and grabbing onto whatever you can grab.
yeah, I wish that his campaign staff would say, of course you can't be sexist towards Kamala. Of course you can't, you know, be racist towards Kamala. But in addition to that, maybe you could put a positive spin on it. Like, I don't understand why they don't tell him. He
Not
can say
capable.
something like, this can be the best country. We can elevate. Like, so you're not praising the country. You're saying what we can be without making it so negative. And I mean, like, his whole speech, out of everything he says, anytime he starts attacking this country, it just pisses me off to like, no, I cannot take that. I don't even know how reporters sit in the room and they don't call him out on that. I
Well,
don't understand how they just don't say anything about that. And
well,
that is like the one thing I can't stand about him the
I,
most.
I tell you this, whatever we're saying right now is exactly what his advisors are telling him. Try to be more upbeat. Try not to jump all over Kamala. Don't call her names. Don't talk about crazy shit. Don't do that. So when they set this economic address up, the presumption is that, well, maybe Donnie's going to behave. And people said, what if he comes out and he's normal? He's not capable of being normal. Once he's not getting adulation, then he goes into unhinged mode, and he's still not getting adulation, so he just ramps it up. Now, there's one other thing he said. He said that he's going to have another press conference.
Yeah.
That should be fun. That should
I
be
don't know
fun.
why you have to be coached to be patriotic. Like, it should just come natural.
Well, and you know why he's having the press conference, don't you? It's because Kamala has announced that she's coming out with her economic
Mm,
plan on Friday. So
yeah,
he's got to try to steal the thunder, which he won't. You know, he was supposed to talk about his economic standing in North Carolina, and he mentioned a couple things, and it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. There was a video of Trump-LaFuck asking Donald Trump a direct question. And it was a decent, legitimate question. He said, listen, it's getting tough out there. I got 3 kids and I have to help all of them just survive because
the
they can't
biker.
afford rent. They cannot do that. And that's a legitimate question. What are
Yeah,
you going to do? And he said, drill, baby, drill. We're going to
yeah,
get
I
oil and
saw
energy
that.
down. He had no clue what to say. He has no answers. So I think people are going to get tired of this because people do struggle
Yeah.
today. It is tougher for younger people, and something has to change. But the only way that's going to change is if Kamala and Tim Walz and the Democrats do it, because the Republicans just refuse.
Yeah, Kamala actually has said that a lot. She wants to go after landlords for,
Right?
their rent increases. Also some of like that federal grant money that they get, they're no longer going to be able to get that if they're raising rents above like, I think it was like 5-10% of, a person's income or whatever it is. So
Right.
she actually has a plan to get that in control. Um, I worry sometimes that that message isn't reaching the people that it's supposed to. However, more people are open to hearing what she's saying now. So I think him coming out with this crazy press conference and then her actually coming out, first of all, her being able to listen to his crap first is like an upper hand for her because she can combat all of that.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
she can actually actually put forth a plan to fill in those gaps where he didn't. I know
exactly.
that he's like mad right now about the tips thing. And what I was hearing at the rally was people were coming to her and saying, like, hey, we actually like that idea. And she was like, okay, well, let me get with my team and just like figure out how to make this happen. So there's 2 different avenues of it. One is there's like a loophole that employers use to claim the employees' tips or something. And
Right.
so she's going to somehow use that loophole so that they don't have to pay taxes on it. And then another thing that I was hearing at the rally was, and this is like the good thing being in the field offices, you hear all this good stuff, is that I guess with rich people, they have like a cap on what they pay into Social Security.
Right.
And what she wants to do is remove that cap. And then it'll generate like billions and billions of dollars when you take their cap off of what they're paying into Social Security.
Right.
So it really, I know like if I was like a billionaire, it probably wouldn't bother me that much because I'm comfortable. So I wouldn't mind paying extra taxes for schools, for children to eat for free, that type of thing. But I do think a lot of them are so greedy that they may feel like they're being attacked and that she's coming after them for their money or whatever. And I really don't think that's what it is. I do think it's more of a balance that she's trying to do. But I think a lot of regular people like us who are saying like, oh, hey, yeah, take their cap off of Social Security so our seniors can be more comfortable. Because when I used to volunteer for Southern Hands of Nevada, there's just so many of these seniors that just need a little extra help. So for her doing that, I'm hoping that these people will say, well, at least these seniors are comfortable in their final years. I'm hoping that's what they think, but in the field offices, those are the two things that they're pushing that can really cover the seniors and the non-taxing on the tips. So, and then they were telling her too, if it's cash, we don't claim that anyway. The only ones that we claim is if you tip us on a credit card or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, there's a way to do it. However, Trump is just saying, hey, no cash on tips, but he has no plan for that. She
No.
actually has a plan. So when he goes out and he says, no cash on tips, she's stealing my idea, and he doesn't explain how he's going to make up that revenue, and she turns around and she comes out and she says how she's going to make up that revenue and give these working people a break, it's going to be such a contrast that I don't think people cannot notice the difference there.
Well,
It's a good
Cindy,
plan.
Cindy and I go out to dinner a lot, and we tip
Mm.
pretty well because we go to places with good service, and we always make sure we have cash, whether we pay for the dinner with a credit card or a debit card or something like that. We always pay in cash. This is a
Yeah,
big deal to Cindy. She doesn't want them paying taxes on it. She doesn't want the restaurant taking their cut or whatever. She wants the person she wants to get the tip. So if you're
yeah,
ever out having dinner and you can do it, always give your tip in cash. It's a
yeah,
much
yeah,
better way. Keep the middleman out of that bullshit. And I'll guarantee you what happened to Donald Trump. The only reason he brought it up in Vegas when he was talking about this is somebody said, you shouldn't tax tips. He goes, that's a good idea.
yeah,
And then just repeated it. That's all he did.
yeah. She actually heard it and she was like, "That's a good idea. Let me figure out how I could do this."
See, that's the
So she didn't
difference.
she didn't say it until there was like not just a plan, but there's like two plans on how that could be realistic and it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? And it actually helps the service workers. So it was pretty cool. And the culinary union out here is like the casino workers and all that stuff.
Right.
They were just like going crazy when she was like, I think I have a plan for that. And they were just pretty much going crazy for that. So we'll see. But her wheels are spinning. And then she has actually advisors around her that like knows this stuff inside out, so it's pretty cool to see competent people say, oh yeah, we can figure this out. We could do this. We can make it happen, so it's just different than just talking when you actually have a plan and you have a way to implement it. And I think people is going to see that. I can't wait for him to come out with his economic plan because it's just a bunch of crap. No plan, no details, no nothing. How he got away with this since 2015, I have no idea. Okay,
Oh,
I'm going to come up with a healthcare plan. Okay, so what's your plan? I'll give it to you in 2 weeks. What's your plan? I'll give it to you in 2 weeks. It's 2024, and he's been saying this since 2015, and we
right.
still don't have a healthcare plan yet. And they don't ask him any details. But I guarantee you, when Kamala Harris releases her economic plan, they're going to want to get all in the weeds of it, dissect it, take it apart. But I do think that they know that, so they'll make sure I's dotted, T's crossed, all that stuff. Trump doesn't have to give details. He could just say whatever he wants, but she does have to give details, and I
Well,
think she will.
well, and I think that people recognize that too. People are in a position where they want some help, and when somebody says, "Just trust me, I'll do it," they aren't going to trust a politician, regardless of whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris lays out a plan to do it. It'll make sense to a lot more people. I mean, the whole situation with Donald Trump when he in 2016 he had momentum. Hillary Clinton wasn't well liked. Nobody knew Donald Trump or what he was capable of. He talked a big game and people bought into it. So he had momentum. And when he got to 2020, the momentum started to slow up considerably.
Yeah.
And then after 2020, he's running again and he's hyping people up. But the momentum has shifted. Donald Trump doesn't have the momentum because he's saying the same shit over and over and over again. People are getting bored. People are getting tired of it. Kamala is the new shiny object, and people are excited about her. Even Republicans now excited about her. The
Yeah.
momentum has shifted, and we only got 85 days. So she's going to hold on to that momentum going into November.
Yeah, I have a question, and it's like I've told like so many people to watch this channel, and this is a question that we were debating. When she comes out with her economic plan, it's like bottom up, middle out, and it's going to require that the millionaires and the billionaires pay their fair share.
Right.
When that happens and they see the plan to make them pay their fair share, do you think so? Like, how many of them are going to run and dump money into Trump's campaign, or how do you think that's going to affect the people, those type of people, and their as far as their donations go?
Well, they're going to be angry about it, I'm sure.
Mm,
But nobody likes to bet on or put money into a losing team. And
mm,
Donald Trump is a losing team. I don't know if it'll gain him any more financial support. And what difference does it make? I mean, the shit doesn't go to his campaign, it goes to his legal fees. I mean, how many commercials do you see of Donald Trump out there? Not many. He's not
mm,
doing rallies anymore. He's laying low. He's getting out of bed in his footy pajamas and going down to the ballroom and doing fucking press conferences. He's going places that they'll let him talk for free. Um, yeah, I'm not worried about it. The fact of the matter is, it isn't about money, it's about votes. And if
yeah,
you are making people happy and that's where the most votes are, that's all that fucking matters. I think Kamala, she's got $350 million and she's got less than 3 months. I think she's
yeah,
got enough cash.
yeah.
And all of it is going to campaigning. None of it is going to legal fees. So she's got him over a barrel at this point.
I saw Jeff Bezos' annual salary is $80,000. And that's what he pays taxes on because that's his salary. And then the rest of his billions, um, it's kind of like investments or employer stock options and all that other kind of stuff. But on paper, he only makes 80,000 a year, and that's what he is paying taxes on. So when you look at somebody like that, and when she wants to make sure that there are IRS agents to go after people like him, I was saying, yeah, these people with all this money is about to get pissed off and they can dump money into Trump. That's what my train of thought was. But now that you said what you said, it makes more sense because she has over $300 million. She is running ads and she is crushing him. So it's not about that top 1%. It's about us
No,
at this point
it
because we
is.
have the numbers and they don't. So they have the money, but we have the numbers, which equals we have the votes. So
Right.
it kind of seems like, they might just resign themselves to the fact that, yeah, this is probably going to happen, or maybe they may want to buy a couple of Senate seats or something like that to maybe try to balance it out a little bit. But I don't see how they not get upset when they see her plan come out.
Do you know how Jeff Bezos claims $80,000 in salary but lives like a king? You know how they do that?
Tax loopholes, right?
Well, it's a tax loophole and it's legitimate and this is something that has to be closed. So he gets
Hmm.
$80,000 a year. That's what he pays taxes on to make it look good.
Yeah.
But he's got all these investments.
Yeah, there you go.
So he goes to the investment and he borrows money from that investment. So that's not income, that's a loan. And on a
Hmm.
loan, there is no taxes to be paid. So he goes into his investments and he says, I need $10 million. He takes 10 million out, a loan presumably to pay back that he may or may not pay back. but it's a loan, so he doesn't pay taxes. It's still income to him, but because of the loophole, he doesn't have to pay taxes on it. And that's what's got to be closed up. They should all
Yeah.
have to pay money for the amount of money they personally use.
Yeah, um I'm like, I'm not a tax person, but when we were like talking about that, as soon as you said the loan part, I'm like, ah, yeah, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Because they kept saying, he can take in and out whenever he wants. This doesn't matter or that. But when you put the loan to it, now I'm following the conversation that they were having.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there and I'm like, 80,000 a year. Like, we know he gets more money than that. But the crazy part about it is the fact that A is legal
Yeah, it is
and
legal.
B is so brazen the way that he does it. Like he has enough attorneys that can actually make sure that he does not have to pay his employees a living wage. He doesn't have to pay taxes. It is mind-boggling that they are able to get away with that. Even more mind-boggling is regular everyday workers like us who are Republicans, they don't see a problem with that. They
No.
don't see a problem with that at all. They will vote for that every single time and
Yeah.
vote against someone like Biden or Harris that's like, no, they need to be paying far more taxes. You're paying more taxes than them. That's not okay. We need IRS agents. We need to close this loophole. Like, we need to make them pay their fair share. And I
Absolutely.
cannot wrap my mind how they think that that is a bad thing. And it's like when you hear Trump and Fox News and all these other people say, "Oh, they're sending IRS agents after you. They're kicking in your doors." When was the last time you seen an IRS agent in a regular neighborhood kicking in doors like they SWAT?
Yeah. You owe us
I
$400, God damn it, and we're gonna take your home. No, it's
like, how did
ridiculous.
they allow themselves to be like afraid of IRS agents? Like, did you pay your taxes? Yeah, all right, you good. Like,
Yeah.
to me, I guess it's just maybe, and something I'm learning, it is a part of their identity. Like, they were like, my parents were a Republican, so I was a Republican. And I'm seeing, that mindset that goes there, but to me, it doesn't make sense. I feel
No.
like even if I was raised Republican, I would just be like, well, why is he only paying taxes on $80,000? Why am I paying more taxes than Jeff Bezos? Like, that wouldn't make sense to me, but they don't question it. They just go along with it, which
Well,
is insane.
the problem is Trump fucks are stupid. I know that's simple, but that's the fucking fact. I tell you what, old soul, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us today. Always a pleasure to have her with us. I've got a cold, so it's nice that she's picking up the slack. My cold is on the way out, but it's a cold nonetheless, and it's a pain in the ass. I'm taking all
It's
kinds
much
of.
easier than my honey was when he was, I told you, like last week, was it last week or the week before he had the flu? And I was just like, oh my God, I can't do, I'd never seen him like sick before.
Uh,
It, I was miserable and he was sick. I was, no.
it's weird. My youngest son is a worrier.
Mhm.
And it's almost annoying to me because, if I'm sitting there like this doing this, he'll come up and go, "You okay?" I go, "Dude, why do you think I'm fragile?" I mean, I've been pretty rough and tumble my whole life. I've had fights. I've been in car accidents. I've flipped off of motorcycles. Uh, I'm pretty tough in terms of holding up. And when I'm sick, if I'm really sick, I'll just go to sleep and just leave me alone. I'm not going to whine and cry about it. I never really had anybody that doted over me. My mom wasn't like that. My mom was one of these people, well, rub some dirt on it and walk it the fuck off. So I never had anybody dote over me. My wife doesn't really, and that's fine. I just like to be left alone sometimes when I'm really sick. And right now I'm not really sick. It's just an annoyance. I feel fine. It's just, the coughing and shit like that. I wanted to ask you this. When we first talked about the prospect of Kamala being the nominee, this was before um, Joe Biden stepped aside. You seemed very skeptical about the idea that Kamala could win in this country. And I know it was because of the whole racial issue and the gender issue. Now, where we are today, I feel like, and this is an old white guy talking about it, so I don't know. I'm asking you. Um, I don't feel like the race and the gender is even really a big deal at this point to the people that would vote for Kamala. It is to Donald Trump. He's trying to make hay with it. It's not working. But I don't think right now her race or her gender really has anything to do with it. She's more of a force of nature, and people are just happy to have her.
I'm pleasantly surprised by it.
Okay.
Everybody I know is pleasantly surprised about it. I mean, you know, those Laura Loomer, Donald Trump, they are of a different breed because when it was first announced that, you know, the Democratic Party would be behind Kamala, she sent out a post that says, if we elect Kamala Harris, we're no like Ebonics is going to be the first language or something crazy like that.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, oh, here we come. Here we go with this crap. However, it does seem to be that sector of people, but it's just kind of like as a whole, people are like, I've been hearing things. There's this one podcast that I watch, it's called I've Had It Podcast, and there's like these two like white women. They're like the coolest women ever. But they are just like so happy. That is going to be a woman because they feel like it's been beyond time for us to have a woman. And then, like a lot of the like white women I interact with, they're like, we can't wait for Trump to lose to a black woman. Like they are on that worse than I am, and they are just looking forward to that. So I do feel like it's just a general consensus from women as a whole, like not only him getting beat by a woman, but a woman of color. Like I'm looking forward to that. I know he's gonna melt down. I know certain people are gonna melt down, but it does seem like they're kind of like in their own little sector with their own racism and all that other kind of crap that they have. The Wild Child took a screenshot of something. I don't know if you posted it last night or today, but she sent it to me today, and it was like your neighborhood with Donald Trump president, and it's like a like a little suburban area, American flag on the porch, and then right next to it he put you can look it up. I think it's on like Trump
I,
War Room or
I've
something.
I've seen
And
it.
yeah, and she sent that to me, and I was like, where the heck did you see this? And she was like, Donald Trump posted it. And so I've been trying to tell her, don't look at stuff like that, but I don't know why she does, but she looks at it all the time, and she'll screenshot it and send it to me.
Well,
And
you
it's
have to
just like,
you have to explain it a little bit here because you missed something on that. And it is a side by side picture. Under
mhm,
Donald Trump, your neighborhood under Donald Trump, and it was just a white suburban bucolic type of thing. And under Kamala Harris, it looked like a ghetto and a bunch of black people.
yeah.
That was
And they
probably
made
one of the
the
most racist things I've ever seen.
yeah, and then when you do the color contrast, Trump's America is like bright, the sun is shining, you could imagine the birds chirping, and then over here it's more of like a gray, dark, um, there's a nefarious undertone to it, and he posted that side by side. Um,
Now he
you
think
just
he did
see,
something there. He thinks he did something there. All he did is
yeah,
identify himself as a true racist.
I'm seeing that the more he does that, the more people like Laura Loomer do that, the more people that they turn off from that.
Hmm.
So it's kind of opening my eyes to the fact that those people, they're not going to go away. They're always going to be there, but they don't have the numbers. Sometimes when you watch, like, especially in like 2016, when you would hear him talk and like the stadiums are filled and all of that stuff, it really wasn't Trump and what he was saying. It was like the crowd. So it
Right.
feels like there's so many of them, but it doesn't really feel like they have the numbers anymore. And I think people are just looking at her as capable. And then she is a representation of America.
Right.
She's biracial. Her husband is Jewish, her stepchildren are of a different faith. So it's kind of, and then when you look at their family, it's like this blended melting pot of a family, kind of looks like my family. Like everybody is all like different shades and colors and religions and all that stuff. And that is a representation of America. So it's kind of like, those people just want America to just look white. That's it. That's all.
Right.
Um, but they don't represent this country as a whole. And I do think people like the representation of America. So I'm pleasantly surprised by that. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to like root for it. And I think that's what makes me happy too. Is like I didn't expect for everybody to like get behind her like this. So that's pretty cool too.
Well,
And I
that's
didn't
why
expect that when he went racist, that it would like push people away. I was kind of thinking maybe he would like draw people in, but he's losing more people than he's attracting. I don't even think he's attracting anybody at this point.
I think it's serendipitous that she's the candidate now. There had to be a point in time when a woman could be elected president. There had to
Yeah.
be a time when a black woman or a South Asian woman or whatever, a mixed woman, be elected president. But everybody kept saying, it's not quite time yet. I don't know if the country's ready for it. But it
Mhm.
seems serendipitous, all this stuff coming together. Joe Biden is successful. He steps aside. Kamala is in the race. She's going up against literally the worst presidential candidate in the history with so much baggage. This is
Yeah.
almost a gimme for Kamala Harris, as far as I'm concerned. And so what's great about this is a perfect time for her to run and win. And then
Mhm.
once she runs and wins, don't you see the entire vibe of the country changing? In the future, having a black president or a woman president isn't going to be a thing anymore because we've already done it.
Yeah, it's going to be the candidate, the
Yeah,
qualified candidate,
which is what it
whoever that
should be.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm looking forward to it. And it's like part of me, like I always tell the wild child, don't look at these polls because she's like really following politics like crazy. It'd be crazy if she was like a senator one day, the way she catches on. But I was telling her, don't look at these polls because in her mind, it's like, I just don't like how tight this race is.
it's
That
not
I feel
tight.
uncomfortable. Look how tight it is. And then I was just letting her know you got to look at your generation the way that a lot of you haven't voted yet. So a lot of these polls are coming from assumed voters or
Old people.
they think they're going to vote, right? But a
Yeah.
lot of these people who are registering now, they've never voted before. They don't have a voting pattern. So they're not showing up anywhere on here. And then you have to think about there are Republicans voting for Harris, but they haven't changed their voter registration to independent or Democrat or anything. They're still a Republican. They're saying Republicans for Harris. So they're not going to ditch the Republican name. They're voting against MAGA. They're trying to reclaim their party. Those people really aren't being factored in it. And then she's been looking at some of these focus groups. I think she's seen two on CNN. The last one that she saw, they were asking people like who are going to vote for Biden. And then they were like, okay, they didn't really get any hands. Okay, so who's going to vote for Kamala? And every hand shot up in the air.
Right.
And, like I do think she has to understand that Trump is turning people off. But when you look at the polls, it makes it seem like it's more of them than it is of us. And they make it seem like it's so tight, but that's just because they don't have a large part of the electorate to choose from. They're limited to what they can choose and put
Well,
on the.
and it's because the media has skin in the game. It needs to be a
Mhm.
close race for their ability to sell people to watch what they're putting out. I honestly think, and I've thought this for a while, I think it's going to be a very decisive win for Kamala. It would have been a decisive win for Joe Biden too. I honestly believe that because I don't think it's about when it was Biden and Donald Trump, it wasn't who was most popular. It was about how many people who hated and were tired of Donald Trump and
Mhm.
the way he makes things happen. Now, when you throw in the fact that people hate Donald Trump, are fearful of Donald Trump, and then you throw in a candidate who's also popular, that
Yeah.
just smells like landslide to me. And that might be too
Yeah.
far to go, but I think it's going to be very decisive.
Well, yeah, I think that most people they actually like Joe Biden and his policies. They liked the job growth. They liked what he was doing. What they were missing was, like the showman part of it. And they were missing the person who could articulate what it is that they were trying to say. So the president, they are your mouthpiece. So it's just kind of like when Biden is out there talking for student debt relief, but he is kind of like stumbling. He has his stutter. It's just like, he's not saying it the way we want to say it. But
Right.
then you have Harris and Walz that can come out there and they're saying it the way that you would say it, especially Tim, in like very simplistic terms. It's like, yeah, that's what we've been trying to say. So your mouthpiece is communicating for you. So you don't have that problem that you had when it was Biden. So it's just like his policies, but it was so important to communicate that. And it wasn't reaching a lot of people because Trump was able to come through with that distraction and say he's old, he stuttered, he did this, he did that. He's not able to put that distraction on Kamala Harris. And I think that's throwing him off of his game like crazy.
Some people are comparing what's going on with Kamala Harris as to the way it was with Barack Obama, the
Yeah.
excitement behind it. I'm going to say this, and I'll see what you think. I think it will be more intense, more exciting than Barack Obama. And I think that once she becomes president and does her 2 terms for 8 years, when it's all said and done, she will be perceived a better president than Barack Obama. And it's
Yeah.
not because she's a better president, it's because of the timing. When Barack
Mm-hmm.
Obama was president, he was still uh, stuck with this obstructionist of the Republican Party and trying to stop everything he did. Barack Obama was not as experienced as Kamala is.
Yeah.
Barack wasn't as strong as Kamala in terms of his the way he talks to people. It's a different personality. But over and above that, we've already had Donald Trump and the shit's broken free. It's going to be harder for them to block Kamala, especially if we get control of the House and the Senate. So I believe that Kamala Harris, she'll win. The excitement will be bigger than Obama, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but uh, there is a comparison as far as excitement going into the because there wasn't that with Biden. People were just scared to death of Donald Trump, and they voted for Biden. They liked Biden after he was in, but with Obama, everybody was excited. I think they're even more excited because as much as when Obama took it, the economy sucked. And Obama, they were excited about him fixing it, which he did. But over and above the economy, because the economy's fine, it's just taking us out of this dark place. She's perceived as the person who's going to lead us into the sunlight again after all these years being in this fucking cave. I think the potential she has coming into the next term, it's going to be fucking amazing. And it's going to change a lot of things in this country. I think we're at a turning point.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't think I know that Obama had the misfortune of being the first.
Right.
So he could not go into the White House and throw his weight around the way that I'm pretty sure he wanted to. He couldn't really like twist arms, force hands the way, I mean, like if you look at how they acted over a tan suit,
Yeah.
imagine if he would have just came through crazy with the executive orders and, you know, really leaning into what he wanted to do, then that door would have been closed for Hakeem Jeffries. That door would have been closed for Kamala Harris because it's like, look how they act when you give
Right.
them a little power. So he had a really tough line that he had to toe. I think that he
Yeah.
did it
Yeah.
as
He
best
did.
as he could. Yeah, I think that he did it as best as he could. It's not like he could have like acted a fool when Mitch McConnell was denying him a Supreme Court justice pick. He couldn't do that. But in order for him, like that sacrifice that he made left that door open for those that come after him. And I think that we got that. I don't think that everybody else got that because they're like, well, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? But you just have to see how that would play out in
Right.
the right wing media and look what talking point that would have given them. And then look at how easy it would have been for them to close the door for the next one. So his legacy had to be what it is, you know. So I think that's a lot that restrained him when he was in that role. I think a lot of people get it, but I don't think everybody else gets it.
Well, and I don't want people to think that I'm suggesting that Obama didn't do a good job. I mean, he took us out of a financial abyss and did amazing things over his 8 years. He gave
Yeah.
us some pride, integrity, and decency in all the years he was president. He
Mhm.
brought us ACA, um, And what a lot of people will say, well, Obamacare isn't the best. And there are some things that need to be fixed with Obamacare, but you can't blame Obama for that. The problem is the obstructionist with the Republicans. He wanted to pass this Obamacare, ACA, to help people, right? But in
Yeah.
order to get it passed through the House and the Senate and stuff, you had to compromise back when they used to compromise. And all the time they were compromising, you have to understand the Republicans were trying to sabotage it. So there are
Mhm.
some bad parts of Obamacare, but it's not because that's what Obama wanted or he made a mistake. It was because he had to deal with these people while they were trying to sabotage it. It was important to him to get it passed, and made some um, he made some agreements to do stuff, even though he maybe didn't want to do it. I'm just saying now with Kamala, given all we've gone through in these 8 years, she's going to get things done a lot easier than what it was
Yeah.
for Obama. And like you say, he had to be the first one, and he did a hell of a job. He is one of my favorite presidents, but I think Kamala has the potential to go even harder in her terms.
Yeah, I think she can do it. I can relate to Obama because I've had like positions and jobs before, and it's like I've bitten my tongue because I'm like, yeah, they ain't never gonna hire another black woman if I say what it is that I really want to say. And so you are conscious of that. Like you keep that in the back of your mind. Like, you have to make room for the next person after you. You can't give them a reason not to hire someone else with an ethnic name or whatever it is. So
Right,
you really are conscious of that. I do think him laying out the legacy that he did,
right.
in addition to the fact that Donald Trump was so ghetto. Like it was just so ghetto, the nepotism, the crime, like everything that he had going on in there, you can like compare and contrast to Obama. So that whole, the black guy did this and the white guys will never do that. Trump came and just X'd all of that out of the picture. That is no longer a talking point because of Trump. You got
Right.
5 children, 3 baby mamas, you done cheated with a porn star, like all of this stuff that you've done. He is the most hood ghettoest president we have ever had in our life. And then you have Obama over here. Yeah, he has swag. He had the basketball goal. You can see him out there shooting hoops with his daughter and his wife, had that youthfulness in there. And then with Trump, it was just kind of like, I don't know, just like this heavy cloud over. There were no animals allowed in the White House. You never saw him like laughing and smiling and having a
Yeah.
good time. You never saw that with him. So a lot of those talking points that Obama took away from them when Trump came in, he just crushed the rest of the talking points because you can never say that this person will treat the office with respect always and we're taking a chance with somebody else, not when you put Trump up in there
Now
and not when he did what he did. It was
I have to correct you
crazy.
on I have to correct you on something, and this is a racial difference. You said Trump was ghetto.
He is ghetto.
Now, white people would never say another white person is ghetto. That's not in
What
our
did you call him?
vernacular. White trash motherfuckers is what they are. Now, get that straight. Eh, there's going to be a lot of things that break loose after the election, and one of the things we're waiting for is to see if Jack Smith has some superseding indictments uh,
Yeah,
to the sitting members of Congress. But there's something else too. I think we really need to look at former Attorney General William Barr. He needs to be accountable for some of the crimes he's committed. And I don't know if you heard this story. This was an interesting story that just prior to the inauguration, um, prior to the 2021 inauguration of Donald Trump, Egypt sent
yeah,
Donnie Trump $10 million, put up a lot of red flags, and Attorney General Barr looked at it. He tamped it down. He pushed it off to the side. He covered it up. Okay.
yeah,
So somehow Donald Trump got $10 million from Egypt and nothing ever happened. Here's the ironic thing. Senator Robert Menendez, the Democratic senator who just got convicted of bribery,
yeah.
where did he get his money from?
From Egypt,
Fucking
him and his
Egypt.
wife.
And his wife. So I'm hoping after we get through this, Kamala and whoever she puts in as the attorney general, really looks hard into William Barr. He is a sketchy motherfucker, and he did a lot of bad things in this country, from the Mueller report and trying to push that aside, and this $10 million thing, and God knows whatever else he did. There needs to be a serious investigation into everything he did while he was attorney general, and that fucker needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, I've heard it vaguely. I've seen it. But the Wild Child, she does keep me a little busy. So I didn't have
It
a
does.
chance to like delve into it. However, I do know all the way from the Mueller report how corrupted Bill Barr was. How I don't know how to say it. Like no loyalty to the Constitution or the
No,
country at all. It was strictly Trump. That's it. That I don't even think it was to the Republican Party, because if it was to the Republican Party, Mike Pence could have did exactly what Trump did, and they could have gotten their judges and their overturning of Roe v. They could have done all of that with Mike Pence. So it really wasn't a loyalty to the Republican Party. It was a loyalty to Trump.
it
And I
was.
do think the reason that that was is Trump was like an amazing Trojan horse. You know, he was that one that could just like go in there and be distracted while all of the little minions came in and tore everything up. And Mike Pence just didn't have the ability to do that. The underlining stuff, the overturning of Roe, the tax breaks, and all of that stuff, I think if Mike Pence would have been in there, he would have completely wrecked Social Security because he's so focused on that. I do I just don't think that he would have been able to do like the sinister stuff like Trump had did. And they needed Trump to be that Trojan horse when he got up in there. And he
Yeah.
was just used because and I also think that a lot of these people that you see rolling with Trump, Mike Pence would have never let these people roll with him. That just wouldn't have happened. It
No.
wouldn't have happened at all. And they really wanted those people in there, and Trump brought them with him. But it was a loyalty to Trump, not the Republican Party, the country, the Constitution, none of that stuff. It was a loyalty to Trump. And I remember Ivanka saying this, and it makes so much sense now. Like she was going along with her dad questioning the election. She said, but once Bill Barr told her, look, there's nothing wrong with this election. It wasn't stolen, and we can't just keep him in office. She said, out of everybody else, like she was going along with Trump. But once Bill Barr told her that, she was like, all right, yeah, dad, it's a wrap. And that lets me know that she knew behind the scenes all of the dirty, underhanded stuff that Barr would do. And so when Barr was like, yeah, this is enough, that let her know it's enough, it's enough. You know what I
Right.
mean? Anybody else, it wouldn't have hit, but she knew how corrupt Barr was. So for it to be too much for Barr, she knew it's over. Just let it go.
Have you heard about this thing in Georgia? There's going to be a big fight over this, I'm sure. But there's a few election deniers, a few
Um,
Trump fucks on the election board there. And they put a link on the website. And what this link allows you to do is go in there and challenge anybody else's voting qualifications, or whether they're qualified to vote.
yeah,
So you can go in, and presumably the presumption is Republicans are going to go in there and question all the Democratic or the black vote or what have you. And people are upset about it because it doesn't seem constitutional or legal. And they're going to test that. And I'm sure there's going to be some investigations into that. But what the Republicans don't understand, and I got this idea from another TikTok creator. His name is Hawk. I don't know him, but I see his stuff, and he says, that link is there for you to challenge uh, voter registration. Now
yeah,
the Republicans think, okay, we can go out there and dump some of these Democrats, but that link is available to everybody. So Democrats could go in there and question the validity of voter registration. And what he suggested is not a bad idea, that we all go in there and question each of the Republican politicians in the state of Georgia, question their voter registration just to make a point. And that kind of sounds like tit for tat, but that's almost what you have to do. These people don't think ahead, like giving Donald Trump immunity. They don't think ahead that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and whoever else is going to be president is going to have that same immunity. Then these Republicans will be screaming like a stuck pig. They only think about now and they think about themselves, but they're so stupid they leave the door open for the Democrats to do the same thing if we have somebody as unsavory as Donald Trump come through.
Yeah, I think that because I saw a piece, I don't know where it was, but if I find it, I'll send it to you. But there was like this group of women that were like challenging registrations for the voters. But the journalist was like, why is this only Democrats? Why are there only people from these zip codes that you're challenging? You
Right.
don't think that this is, prejudiced or whatever? And they had their little spiel. It didn't make sense. You knew what they were doing. It is what it is. I think the most egregious out of all of them is what Elon Musk is doing.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much money he has, election interference, voter fraud, identity theft, pick a felony.
Yeah.
And nothing has happened to this man. He is literally putting voter registration links out there. And you sign up, you put your information in, and at the end, it's like, thank you for registering, but you're not registered. It's just a
Right.
link. So, what is he doing with your information? For what reason? And they are not calling him out on that. And then you got these heifers out there in Georgia that's running around. If you live in a zip code that leads towards Democrats, they want to challenge your registration. It's they're allowing it to happen. Even in Texas with that stupid little loophole, where we're not going to cancel your voter registration, we're going to suspend it. So you have to take an extra step. You say, okay, let me check my voter registration. Okay, yeah, I'm registered. But if you're in Texas, you have to go an extra step and make sure, yeah, I'm registered, but am I suspended? Because they try to play those little games. The fact that the DOJ just sits back and just lets this stuff happen is beyond me. Elon Musk, his little trick right now, that to me, that one is just pissing me off because it's so blatant. You can actually prove that. These women, like what they're doing is wrong and we know it's wrong, but you can't prove their motivation because you're not inside of their head. So unless it's the email that they've sent to someone or a voicemail that they've left, only Trump do stuff like that to get caught.
Right.
So you can't prove their motivation. But with Elon Musk, he's literally doing it and you can trace it. And the DOJ is just like, well, we'll see what happened during the election. It's driving me crazy. I'm
Did
all
you
wired up now, but
did
it's
you
okay.
did you listen to the little show that Elon and Donald Trump put on? It Donald Trump sounded horrible. He sounded like he was slurring his words, and he had a lisp too. I never heard the lisp before. His drugs must be wearing off. I was waiting for him to say thuffering thuckatash, but
Once
he,
upon a time, people used to say Barbara Walters had like a horrible lisp.
yeah,
They have nothing on Trump, but
no, no. And Trump said, well, it was a technical thing. Oh, really? How come Elon didn't have it? Donald Trump sounded horrible. But talking about
not only that,
Elon,
but did you see the video? There was someone in the room videotaping him talking to Elon, and
right,
they leaked the tape, and you could see him talking to Elon with the lisp on camera. No,
right.
fool, that was you.
Well,
That was you.
they tried to fix it and then he re-released the audio tape where it's perfect. Like somebody's going to go back and listen to that bullshit. But Elon Musk, he's supposed to be the smartest guy in the world, the richest guy in the world. You give Joe Biden trouble about stuttering? That fucker had problems putting together sentences. He was stuttering and stammering. He may be brilliant, but he has no idea how to do a little show like he did there. He was absolutely embarrassing how dumb he sounded.
You know how ghetto? I told you. You say trailer trash.
White
I say Trump
trash.
is ghetto. He is ghetto because he released a mixtape. That's how ghetto he is.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think Elon Musk, what it was, is a lot of pandering.
Yeah.
And I do think just you could listen to like some of the hints that he was dropping, that maybe he could be like government oversight, and he has all these ambitions of basically having a president in his pocket, which blows my mind that none of these people understand that you put Trump in that White House again, it's over for all of y'all.
Yeah.
He looks up to Xi and Putin. And then I don't know if they followed, but it was like this Canadian family. They raised like, I don't know, $50,000 or whatever, and they went to to Russia because they didn't like the LGBT flags in Canada, all this crap. They get there and Putin, or I'm sorry, the Russian government seizes their money. They're going to do an investigation. Do you think these people are supposed to get their money back? And now they
No.
just stuck in Russia, right? So a lot of these people with this money, like Elon Musk and all these other people, when you give Trump that amount of unchecked power, that's his money. I don't
Right.
understand why they think that Trump would allow for people to just run around and have more money than him, have better toys than him, have better women than him. I don't know why they think that he would allow that. And I think Elon was just doing a lot of pandering, and I think it was like one point that he said, and this was so fun. This is so funny. Elon said something about the EV cars or whatever, and he like how he thought it was a good idea. And Trump was like, no, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And Elon came back, yeah, I think you're right. Like you completely ditched your whole argument because he basically said you're wrong and you just went along with it. And then that's all it was pandering. And I don't think that he knew how to naturally pander to Trump because Trump was sounding like an idiot and nothing he said makes sense. I would have been stumbling too because it's like, what do you say to that? Like, what do you say to somebody who is sitting here telling you, we're going to send the Department of Education back to the states?
Right.
How do you have a conversation? I
I,
would have been stumbling too.
I think Donald Trump is the most dangerous man in the country, but
Yeah,
I think Elon is number two, because while he doesn't have a political power directly, he's
yeah,
the wealthiest guy in the world. He's got a platform where he can reach a bunch of people. He's lying to people. He's fucking with people. He put out an AI of Kamala Harris, which was totally phony, and millions
yeah.
of people looked at it. Elon Musk is a problem in this country, and that has to be addressed too. He needs to be held accountable. And I realize that because he's a billionaire, it may be hard to do it. But I think if anybody can do it, it's Kamala and some of the Democrats that will be hanging around after November 5th.
I wouldn't think it's that hard to do because if it was me, the first thing that I would do with Elon is pull his government contracts. All right,
Yeah.
we cool. All these little satellites that you got rolling around, yeah, we're not supposed to play that either.
Yeah.
I do think that the government finds it difficult to hold him accountable because they're basically playing in his backyard, and
Right.
you have to stop doing that. I think that they've given him too much power, and they, for whatever reason, is afraid to take it back. I would take it back. I wouldn't have a problem taking it back. In a heartbeat, I would take it back. But I do think that you need someone with a backbone who's willing to take on that type of challenge. I don't think Merrick Garland is up for it. The fact that he is tricking people into thinking that they are registered to vote, the fact that you can trace the link back to Elon and you're not doing anything about it, that says all I need to say about Garland. Like, I just want him gone yesterday.
I think, excuse me, I think all of that is going to be for naught, though. I think the turnout is going to be so huge and the win is going to be so decisive. It's not going to really make a difference. I mean, the whole idea of him saying it was rigged, it was a hoax, it was a fix, or whatever, the bigger the difference between Trump and Kamala, the harder it's going to be to make that argument. If Kamala
Yeah.
wins decisively, he can't argue it. I mean, he's going to try, but it's not going to go anywhere because it's just ridiculous. You're going to have to, how are you going to find out how they faked a million votes? It's not going to work. Not going to
Yeah.
work.
Glenn Kirshner always says, too big to rig, too real to steal.
Yeah,
And that is just like that's the motto of 2024 when it comes to voting, because the larger the turnout, the larger the gap between those two are, the more difficult it will be. To just basically have to make sure that they don't have a leg to stand on, and we just have to focus on making sure everybody gets out as much as they can. I was talking to like the wild child about the kids in her school that will be 18 before the election, maybe trying to put like a little box or something there because she feels like, I don't know, like her voice doesn't count because she can't vote yet. But I was telling her little things like that could help. If she wants, I'll go to the office and, see if there's anything that they would be willing to do. Um, but you never know when you do stuff like that, Republicans cry foul. So
Oh
I wouldn't
yeah.
mind trying it, but I would just caution any parent who tried to come at her with something like that. Don't.
Well,
But I think that's a good idea if you do have a grandchild or a child that's in high school. Just see if there's something that they could do at their school for seniors who will be of age before the election. I think there may be some schools that's open to that. She seems open to that idea, so that may be something that I can do while I'm here.
well, and I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and November 5th. We've got
Mhm.
a presumptuous or possible debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Do you think
That
he gonna show up?
he almost has to because everything he's doing isn't working. The only
Mm,
thing he can do to try to switch things is the debate. He may not want to, his people may not want him to, but it may be his only choice. But when he does, he's going to get crucified. I don't have any question in my mind. Just hearing him talk and hearing Kamala talk, she's a prosecutor. Her business is tearing motherfuckers apart verbally. And that's what she'll do. She'll tear
yeah,
him apart. And then on top of that, on September 18th, we've got the sentencing. That's going to take its toll on
yeah,
what's coming up in November. It's just the planets are aligned. Donald Trump is fading. He's really got no way to pull himself out because he's not capable of it. He can't
mhm,
change anything because he's just mentally damaged. And with all these things coming up between now and then, it's just going to sink him farther, and it's going to make that a bigger difference in the votes when he finally gets to November 5th. I still think he may try to bail out. I mean, there's people talking about how he inkled, maybe we'll just go to Venezuela. Now, he doesn't say stuff like that unless he's really thinking of it.
yeah. I think
He-
there's one group that you left out that Trump is losing. The white supremacist vote, their little puke Nick Fuentes.
yeah.
He has been just raging against Trump. I never thought that I would see that. And then there's one other, oh, and Laura Loomer as well. She is the one who is coming after Trump directly. So her, Nick Fuentes is, and then a lot of them, what I saw um, was they got upset that he was talking about Jewish people and trying to say they need to vote for him. And then he listed the things that he did for Israel as if I don't know why he equates their religion to a building in Israel. But anyway, they were really upset about that because I don't know if he knows this or not, but a large part of his base, they are white supremacists and they don't like Jewish people. They
No.
marched and said Jews will not replace us. And that's part of the reason that they liked you because you actually stood up for them
Right.
when no one else would have done that. But that really pissed these people off. And so from what I've been seeing from like those groups of people is like, we're going to either write in a name or we're going to sit this one out because, he's trying to, I can't even repeat some of the stuff that I hear these people say, but they
Replace
don't like
us.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like that. They don't like that at all.
I heard
So
a I heard
I
a
never
story
thought
about.
he would lose that vote though. Like,
Well, he's
how do
trying to
you lose that vote?
he's trying to ride the fence. He's doing that with the evangelicals too. He's trying to back off of Project 2025. He's trying to back off and soften his abortion stance, which he can't do. So now he's pissing off the people that were his base. He's panicking, so he's kind of standing in the middle, trying to get both ways, and it's not going to work. I heard a story about RFK Jr. He's a pointless fuck. He's got no chance of winning, and he knows that. I understood he went to talk to Donald Trump to say, I'll endorse you if you do something for me. And then I heard a story that he was going to go to the Democrats and say, I'll endorse you guys if you put and find me a job in there. If I'm the Democrats, I say, you know what, we good. because you're taking votes away from Trump. Go ahead, run, baby, run.
I think when it comes to Robert F. Kennedy, especially hearing about the bear thing,
Yeah.
that worm had to have like pooped in his brain to the point to where I don't even know how Joe Rogan says that he is the more rational out of the two. I would think that Trump would be more rational than him at this point. I don't know. I think that I have a hard time talking bad about him because I do think that he is an ill man, and I do think he needs psychiatric help. So I do think I have a hard time saying something bad about him,
I
but I don't
don't.
worry about him because he just ciphers. I don't, because he just ciphers off votes for Trump, and I think that's the only thing that he's good for. But I do think there's something seriously wrong with him.
I
I
gotta
really do.
I gotta tell you, if you're on board to hurt this country and affect things for my kids and grandkids, I don't care if you're a paraplegic. You're a piece of shit. This is all about equality. This is what I've told people before. I don't distinguish between color, gender, sexual orientation. If you're a good person, I like you. If you're a bad person, you fucking suck. And the other stuff is just window dressing to me. If you happen to be mentally ill and you're trying to damage this country, well, then you need to be taken out of the circumstances. I mean, we've got to look at the greater good here, the future of the country. And just because, RFK Jr.'s got a worm in his fucking brain, I don't give a fuck. I'd still slap the taste out of his mouth.
He has a worm and worm poop in his brain.
Yeah.
I don't.
And he keeps admitting to things that are crazy.
Yeah, I saw that video with him and Roseanne talking about the bear, and she just had this look on her face like, you are off. And it's just kind of like when Roseanne Barr is looking at you, the same woman who thinks that Biden has bodysuits and there's different people
Right.
under the bodysuits, that's off. And for that person to be looking at you and thinking that you're the crazy one in the room, I I don't know why his family hasn't forced him to get help. They could at least do 72 hours or something. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know what happened in his life to make him like that, but
yeah.
I look at him more as an invalid than evil, I guess.
If Roseanne looks sideways at you because you're crazy, that's fucking crazy. It's like being the skinniest fat guy in the room, or the dumbest or the smartest dumb guy in the room. That's
Yeah.
who he. That's who he fucking is. It's just, I'm done with feeling sorry for people. We're in a war right now. There's going to be casualties, and they're all going to be Republicans. We have to eradicate them, and we've got to make sure when they're down, they stay down. Otherwise, they'll grow back like fucking cancer. This point, we're trying to save our lives and save our country. Shit happens.
I'm glad that you, my daughter, and a wild child, y'all are like my battle buddies because I would probably be like, "Oh no, we can't take that insurgent out." Y'all would be like, "Get out the way, I got this." I just look at him. I do think I just feel more pity for him than I feel threatened by him. And it could just be because I don't see him as a threat. It's because he siphons off more votes than for Trump than he would for us.
Yeah.
And
I
so I
don't
guess,
worry about them. I just tired of them. Tired of listening to crazy shit. Donald
yeah.
Trump, RFK Jr., all the fuckers in Congress, Jim Jordan. I'm tired of hearing. I have a low tolerance for stupid, and I don't care why they're stupid. It just bugs the shit out of me.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how the press, they don't push back on Trump, right? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking about this because I know he has this conference or the press conference tomorrow. Do you think so? I'm like, they need to press back. But then I saw that last one that he did, and I was like, them not pushing back was probably the best thing to do because it was just him rambling, telling blatant lies. And it was just kind of like this odd echo sound in the back where it was just the ramblings of a madman. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like you could just see how far gone he was gone, that he
Right.
is. And it's just because they just kind of like let him go. So I be getting kind of caught up sometimes, like they need to fact check him. They need to push back. This isn't journalism. I do feel like that. But then when I see him standing there talking nonsense with the echo in the background, and it's just like, oh my God, he is embarrassing himself. And
Right.
it's
Well,
kind of like, just let him talk.
yeah.
I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Well, there that is true, and if they air the next press conference, I'm good with that because he just loses votes every time he does it. But if you
Mhm.
want a comparison, and if you understand how narcissists act, if you compare that press conference to that interview with the black journalist,
Yeah.
first thing she did is she listed a bunch of stuff, and he got mad immediately, and that's when he went off the fucking off the hook. And that's the way
Hmm.
it is with narcissists. If you call them out, the moment you call them out, they get mad and then they lose their fucking minds. Then they're ranting and raving, yelling at everybody about everything. So either way you go, one way is if you don't push back, he'll just be stupid and crazy. But if you do push back, he's going to be really fucking stupid and really crazy.
Hmm.
So I think either way you do it, Donald Trump doesn't have the capacity to come off looking good. I would prefer to push him back and get him mad
Yeah.
because that's what he really loses it. So either way, if they run the press conference and they don't push back, well, the people that don't push back, they're going to have to live with that down the road because they're going to
Yeah.
get shit about it. If they do push back, then it's going to get crazy. Now, if I'm a reporter and I'm thinking about ratings, I'm gonna push
Mhm.
that motherfucker because I'm gonna turn this thing into a circus, which is what would happen if you push back. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But keep in mind, he's doing this at Mar-a-Lago, yeah, and on his home turf, in his footy fucking pajamas. He's picking and choosing who's in there and who isn't. And if somebody, you notice he didn't have them on mic either, so you
Yeah.
really couldn't hear what they were asking. Somebody did ask a question and he did get mad a little bit, but he does that on purpose. If somebody is pushing back, he just has to ignore them. You can't hear them. That's why that's why you need to be able to hear both sides of the conversation.
I think, and I was thinking when they got to the journalist that asked them about the crowd size, it was like kind of dawning on me. They're asking him questions that they know are going to trigger him
Right.
because there's no reason to say, "Hey, what do you think about Kamala Harris's crowd size?" So I was just thinking to myself, they're asking him questions to push his buttons, and then they're just letting him just rant and rave. But I do think your strategy is better. Ask him a question that's going to piss him off, and then just compound that by pushing back. Um, but then he just sitting there like ranting and raving. And I think that that just made him look worse, but it would have looked worse if he would have been lashing out. So
Right. Well, what I would
yeah, I
ask,
could.
the first thing I would ask him about crowd size is say, Donald, do you think the crowd size has any bearing on the fact that you have small hands? Do you
I
think your
knew you were gonna
small
say that.
do you think your small hands are causing you to get a smaller audience? That would send him over the fucking edge. I only know this because I had a father who I knew how to send over the edge. Um, but yeah. I'd just soon see people push back and have him lose his shit. Why take a chance that he might have a good day and sound decent? Throw him off the minute. I mean that's what you do with a debate. That I told my son one time, and it's the same premise with debating a guy like this or interviewing somebody like this. You want to throw them off your game. If you're in sports, you want people to lose their mind because then they make mistakes.
Hmm.
I told my son this one time. He was a lineman, and I played line in football. And he says, "This guy's a pretty big guy. What should I do?" And I said, "The first series, you go nuts. You go nuts. You embarrass him. You push him as far back as he can go. Just take total control." He goes, "Well, what good that'll do? That'll make him mad." I said, "No, it'll make him scared. Because then after that, I used to do it all the time. You go nuts on somebody right off the bat, and then after that, they run away from you. And you're standing there looking like a fucking king because nobody's getting through. And it's the same with the debate. You hammer them up front, throw them off their game. And then from that point on, it's easy.
Do you think after the heat that they got last time for not pushing back, follow-up questions, fact checking, do you think that they are going to take that as a critique and they'll actually do that this time, or will it be a repeat of before?
No, I don't think they'll change their style because they're pussies, and they have this, and they have the same problem that the staff has. They're terrified of him getting mad and doing something like you, because Donald Trump has done it before. If they call him out and they push him back, then he's going to say, "I don't want him for the rest of the campaign. I don't want him anywhere near me or her near me." That's what they're afraid of, is being taken out of the mix so they don't have access to him. And that's the one thing he would do. I don't want, remember, he did it to Jim Acosta while
Yeah,
he was in the White House. You can't come in here anymore. They ended up having to let him back. But that's what they're afraid of. They're thinking of their money and their job. If Donald Trump kicks him out, then they got nothing to do. So it's all about money. It's all about position and power. I don't I don't know that they will push him back. If they do, it won't be as hard as they should. And I think
yeah,
that's part of the reason why the media never did it. Well, Donald Trump's a shit show and he's great for viewers. If I push him back and he says I'll never come on your show again or I won't let you in the White House again, then I'm fucked. So we're gonna walk softly. And that's why they're pussies.
the
They're
press corps should talk, right?
yeah, should.
Because I mean, like me sitting down, like, hey, he can't kick us all out. And even if he does, who is he going to talk to? He's an attention hog, right? I don't understand why they don't. That's a lot of things I don't understand. I don't understand why they don't strategize and get to him. If he skips over your question, okay, I'll ask your question. And, we all keep asking that same question until he answers it. I don't know why they don't do that. I don't know why the campaign staff didn't finesse Trump. That's still baffling my brain. Because we all know that he didn't really want to be president.
No.
He's kind of lazy. I think that they should have gotten together and just said, hey, you know, let endorse someone. You can sit behind the scenes and be kingmaker and choose Senate seats and House seats or whatever. Like, we know he's not choosing, but let him think that. And then, the person that you choose to be the next president, on day one, they're going to dismiss all of your charges. They're going to do this, that, and the third. I do think they could have sold it to Trump to where he's like behind the scenes pulling all of the strings, and he gets to golf and eat his two number ones with an extra Big Mac on the side and be cool with that. I don't understand why people just don't know how to finesse him. It's
Well,
it's
that's
pretty
well, it's
pretty
because
interesting that they don't.
they're afraid of what they're going to lose. That's why I wish somebody would. I have no aspirations of being on a network or anything like that because I just don't fucking care and I don't want people telling me what to do. But what they needed to do is take a guy like me or Betty Hassan who has nothing to lose. I don't fucking care. And if I only get one time to talk to him, that's all right. That's all I need. You let me talk to him for 10 minutes one day and this guy will lose his shit because he's got nothing to hold over me, you know?
Yeah.
I'll get you fired or you can never talk to me again. Well, I don't need to talk to you again. I fucking destroyed you the first time. And so that's what
He'd
you need.
rather sit down with Lawrence O'Donnell before he sat down with you.
Right, right. Because Lawrence O'Donnell's got something to lose. I got nothing to lose. That's the whole premise of doing the podcast and doing TikToks is I'm one of the few people that doesn't have to answer to anybody. I can just say what I think. And unfortunately, all these other people that will question him do have to answer to somebody and do have to deal with him in the future. I would be happy just to be a hired gun, go in, fucking tear him up for about 15 minutes and then have him mad at me and says, I'll never talk to you again. That's all right. I had enough.
Except for that, I was surprised that he did the interview with that Aiden kid, whatever his name
Oh,
was.
he's a goof.
You know, this is so funny. Okay, so Grammy, her boyfriend, his name is Charles, and he's so like quiet, stoic. I never see that much of a personality from him. He's always like tightening up something. Like I sat in the chair, the dining room chair. It was a little wobbly. He leaves, he comes back, and he's like screwing and tightening the chair. Like, and he's always screwing something, tightening up something, removing a vent, cleaning it out. Like, that's just how he is. But he doesn't have that much of a personality. So the wild child, she has her phone connected to the television, and she's showing us, because I had no idea who this Aiden kid was. I didn't know why people were making such a big deal out of it. And so she was showing us this video of him like sniffing chairs and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you
And Charles,
fucking
he's just
goof.
so quiet. And so that she showed us a video of Trump getting up. And so just out of nowhere, Charles says, even that dumbass kid did not to sniff that chair after Trump got his butt up out of it. It was just out
Yeah.
of nowhere. And I was just like, you can talk. But it's really funny that I didn't know that he would talk to someone younger than him. But after I saw the videos that the wild child was showing me, I was just like, oh, Trump knew this kid was stupid and he didn't know nothing about nothing. And then he just knew that this kid was putting on a show, kind of like he was putting on a show. I think sometimes these narcissists can like sense each other in a room. They're
Yeah.
like cats or something. They could just smell each other.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was for, because I just didn't get it. Why is he sitting down with this gamer kid? And then, when she showed the videos, I still didn't get it, but I get it now. It's just because that guy was just
Well,
stupid.
they thought he thought he could reach Gen Z and get their votes. Yeah, no fucking
That's not
chance of
gonna
that.
happen.
Not going to happen. Well, old soul, we're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for coming on, as always.
Thanks.
It's always a
I'll either
pleasure.
be here or in Vegas next week. I don't know, but I will see.
We'll catch up to you. You got to live your life too. You
Yeah.
can't be running around doing canvassing and doing talking in prisons and saving kids that aren't yours. And you got to live your life too.
If the wild child, I think she is that one person I would. Well, no, because my honey has 2 children too, but
Well, you got to because you've already adopted her. So I mean, you're kind of stuck there now. But just don't take on any more kids, okay?
yeah,
You're
we went to the school and we changed the I think there's like your person of contact, and then there's an emergency contact. So we went and we switched it around to where I'm the person of contact, and then Grammy is the emergency contact. So if they try to contact me and I don't answer, then they'll call her. And the wild child, she just sat back in her seat and she was like, well, that sucks. And I'm just like, tell me you knew you wasn't gonna act right without telling me you knew you wasn't gonna act right. And the counselor was just like cracking up. And I was just like, yeah, they have like a little portal and I can like go on there, see her assignments, see all the stuff that she did, mentions her teachers. So I do think even being like, 4.5 hours away, I don't think she'll feel like she can get away with the stuff that she's getting away with Granny before.
so
So
you're the first contact. You're going to check her
yeah.
schoolwork. Of course you are.
I got
Um,
the app, the portal. Yeah. So I'm checking it every single day. Did you do your assignments? Is this in here? Okay, do I need to email your teacher? Like, I am on it. And she keeps saying, you say we a lot. Because like I guess her mother, she used to just be like, Kelsey, you walking in sin, Kelsey, you need to get your life together. Da, 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 da. And she was like, when it comes to you, it's like, oh no, we're not gonna have that. Oh no, we're not failing this class. And I was just like, I never noticed it, but I do talk like that.
you
I
do
do
talk
talk
like
like
that.
that.
You do talk like that.
We gonna do better than this.
Uh,
And I do talk like that.
yeah. Well,
She gonna be all right.
thank you for coming on. Say hi to the wild child, your daughter, to your TT, to your mom, to Uncle Cleo. Say hi to all of them for me.
I'll tell them. The other child that was here last time, she ended up leaving with, I forgot to update you guys. She ended up leaving with her dad, but it was like an all-day process. So their plane left at like 4 something in the night. And my daughter had already prepared us, like, we can't make her leave. We have to coax her into leaving. A couple hours in, I was like, yeah, I can't listen to this. And so I just like went in the office and started working. But it took from like my daughter got her up at like 5 in the morning. And when they left, it was like maybe a quarter after 3. And it was like
Wow.
all day coaxing her to leave because she was just, what happens to my mom? What happens with my mom? My mom this, my mom that. It was so hard for me to hear her just worry so much about her mom and wanted to go take care of her mom. It was like pulling at my heartstrings as a mom. How can you hear a
Yeah.
child just like reaching out for their mom and her mom is like, I don't care, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
she ended up getting on a plane. She went with her dad. Her and the wild child, they text. I don't know why she likes the wild child, because she was like, "Do you ever miss your parents?" Like, and then the wild child was like, "You know what? You see that light switch over there?" And she was like, "Yeah." She was like, "When I hit it, lights come on." And I like that. I like having a roof over my head. No, I don't miss my parents. It's not a really compassionate way to be, but she is so honest. I don't think she knows how to be anywhere else. But um, they text and talk and stuff. So I guess they're going to be cool until whenever. But yeah, they talk.
Well, hopefully she'll do well with her dad and Wild Child. She's got life dick now that she's got you running it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the adjustment will be with her stepmom and her half siblings. But I think she'll be all right. I think she will be, hopefully.
well, no doubt you'll hear about it and have to run out there and negotiate some shit out. Well, Old Soul, thank you very much. And for those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. I hope you have a great day. And we'll, of course, we'll talk to you tomorrow.